Hello, hello. Here we are again, coming to you from Broadcast Team Alpha, the Paranormal World Show, and coming to you from 44 different platforms around the world. And I'm Aage, I'm the host tonight. And we're going to talk about the gray aliens, or should I say, more correctly, extraterrestrials, because most of them are. And we are transmitting also on the wonderful platform of Conscious Awakening Network. And you really need to go and check them out. Go to consciousawakeningnetwork.org and also on YouTube with the same name, Conscious Awakening Network. They got close to 50 different shows over there covering just about everything that all of us need to know about. And if you want to get a hold of me or Nori, just contact us through broadcastteamalpha.com, which is our website. Send us an email from there, and we will get it and get back to you and start a communication of something. And if you are watching on YouTube right now, that's the place to be because that's the only place we can monitor the chat room. And then I want to introduce the guest because he's been with us several times because he has written 41 books of stuff that a lot of people are wondering about and most people need to know about. They may not know it yet, but they will shortly when the sky is full of really puzzling things sometime in the near future. Then they're going to come running to you and say, what's going on? What are those? You need to have something to tell them, and you will get something to tell them if you listen to the end of this show. And Gil Carlson is with us, and he has written 41 books, like I said, and he has been kind of back in obscurity until I found him and brought him out and in front of the world. And now he is here with us for the next hour to talk about gray extraterrestrials. The question is, who are they? Or more so, what are they? Because some of it may not even be a who. They may be a what. So we're going to hear about some famous gray encounters, the different variants of it, because there are so many. Why are they here? And there are a question of where are they from? What is their agenda? So welcome to the show, Gil, and let it rip.
Well, thank you, Augie. And here, let me flash this book. There we go.
There you go, Gray Aliens, it says. And of course, you go to Amazon, put Gil Carlson in there, and you'll get 40 different books. Some of you caught that. I said 40 different books because there's one that they didn't like, so they got rid of it. It was
Who
too
knows?
much.
There might be even more by now. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it was
Who's
too much.
counting?
Yeah, too much truth in it. So anyway, you'll find all these books there.
Yes.
And where do you want to start, Gil? There's so much to talk about.
Well, I've got to tell everyone out there that, yes, this is Gil again, and I'm going to lead you on an amazing voyage through the gray aliens, the world of the gray aliens. And there's so many things we don't know. Most of us aren't even aware of what's going on out there. But first, Augie, have you noticed there's been a change recently in I guess you would call it the aliens coming out of obscurity? It used to be
Oh,
there was very little mention about them, or you didn't dare mention them. Everybody's talking about them now. There's all these shows, especially yours. They're no longer being covered up. There's acceptance. Um, Let me tell you a story. Um,
yeah.
a young woman who, friend of mine, who helped me write the Past Lives book and helps me with some of my other books. She has an 8-year-old daughter, and it really amazed me because one of the big things they're always talking about at school and everything else is the aliens. And they were even talking about Area 51. I mean, at that age, that is so bizarre. And and I heard that a while back, she was reading one of my books with her grandparents, and 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 I'm always kidding her about aliens and stuff. And I just can't believe how sharp she is about this stuff. And and
Well, they
she a while
start
back,
they
yeah,
start early.
yeah, it's amazing. And recently, she was telling her grandparents that she's been giving it a lot of thought, and she really thinks that I'm an alien.
Oh, really?
And so I had to go over there the other day. So I told her, I said, let me explain to you how you can tell if a person is really an alien. I said, you have to check their socks. And I showed her my socks. I was wearing my alien socks with little wavy aliens on them, and
Um,
she was uh, she was laughing so much she was rolling on the floor. Anyway, let's get on with these aliens, these
mhm.
gray aliens. Um, the grays are probably the most commonly encountered aliens that we're going to run across, and they've been here during our history, and they've probably been here longer than we have. And, and the grays, little description here: the grays are telepathic. They have a collective consciousness, and they are unable to feel emotion. Uh, it's interesting because they have difficulty understanding our emotions, and they're in awe of our emotions, and they even feed on them. They try to create sometimes negative emotions that they can feed on. Um, so I just want to pass on a little information that if folks out there are ever abducted,
Yeah.
uh,
Let
don't
me let me just dwell on that collective consciousness for just a little bit. It's a concept that is hard to understand. That is actually total telepathic contact between everyone that is working on the same subject that they are concentrating on. In other words, if there's 5 aliens in the same room, they think the same thoughts, they see the same, they visualize the same. They are one mind. So one thinking, all of the others, they will know what he's thinking about something. That is really hard to understand.
And they probably don't really understand our being so
Yeah,
independent thought and everything else. Uh, and
yeah.
these gray aliens, they're they're the ones that are always associated with the abductions and also the human alien hybrid program. Uh, but let's get on to the some of the famous gray alien encounters. There was Barney and Betty Hill. I'm sure everybody's heard about that. That was oh, probably the beginning of um, the gray alien abductions that became popular, that we became aware of. And
Yeah, I think there was one of the first that was actually publicized. They've been doing it for thousands of years, but this one is,
yeah, there's
it's one
something
of the
about it.
first.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess because it was publicized,
yeah,
and I mentioned on a previous show, I still have a feeling that this was the beginning of I guess you'd call it the MILABs, the joint alien and military abductions, where there was people mentioning that they had been abducted, and they mentioned seeing our our military on there on these spaceships with the
Yeah.
aliens, which is it's something that's hard to understand how that could be happening. But
Well, the dark side of government has gotten involved with them and they're working with them. And they find their, especially Air Force or maybe Navy officers on their crafts. And they are tall aliens. And now this is right out of the descriptions of the abductees. Tall aliens and little bitty aliens. Oh, I said little bitty, I mean 3 foot, 4 foot tall. And the little bitty one, they're kind of the worker bees, aren't they? They do most of the work, and the taller ones, they're kind of observing and making sure things happen.
they seem to be almost robotic,
Yeah.
and and I'm not sure how we would describe that, how robotic they are, if they are, or but maybe it's because of this. I don't know, maybe something else we don't understand. But what I found interesting about the Barney and Betty Hill abduction was that when it happened, he got out of his vehicle and he was carrying a pistol, and he was looking through binoculars and he saw 10 gray aliens, and they telepathically communicated with him, and they told him not to move, and then they heard a lot of pulsating sound, buzzes and beeps, and their car began to vibrate. And then there was a tingling sensation that came over their body, and they lost consciousness.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
and then go ahead, Augie. I know you want to say more about
No,
this.
no, this is a story that is so well documented because they were not astrophysicists, but they were given a star map that shows where they came from. And later on, that star map was recognized, and they say, yeah, that map was real.
Yes, I found that to be very interesting, and I guess this probably opened up people's minds to what was really going on. And another thing that I think brought things out about the Greys was with a guy up in his cabin in upstate New York who had been abducted a few times, and then he wrote his book and sold 1 million copies, and with the big picture of the gray alien on the cover, and that introduced a lot of people to the gray aliens. That was a very popular book. I won't mention the name of it because he might sell
Yeah,
another 1 million copies just from
but
your audience out there.
yeah, but that's okay.
And okay, and another incident was Travis Walton. And this, I believe, it went back to 1975. And he was with a group of loggers, and he spotted this disc-shaped object hovering around the ground. And everybody else stood back, and but he approached it. I guess that's something you probably shouldn't do. But
Yeah,
well, we all do dumb things. And they shot a bright beam of light out at him, knocked him in unconscious. And his other friends, co-workers, ran off. Um,
yeah,
and he regained consciousness, Walton, on this ship. And he described as being as hospital type room. I guess that's a common description. And he said he was surrounded by 3 small grays, and they led him throughout the ship, showing it off, and then he woke up back on the highway 5 days later. That
yeah,
seems like a long abduction. Usually they're a lot shorter.
yeah.
I don't know what that means, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Nori and I had Travis on our show and we interviewed him here a couple of 3 years ago. And I have a sneaky suspicion because of the way it was explained that that abduction was an accident. It very well could have been because he walked up towards it, and there's a lot of static electricity around the ship because of the propulsion and the gravity nullification effect. And there was a spark that came from the ship and hit him, and he threw him several feet, and he was unconscious. If that was an accident, the people in the ship, they could have recognized that for what it was, and they said, oh, he may have killed somebody. Let's see if we can help him. So they brought him on the ship and they repaired him. And that could have taken a few days for them to get all of that together. Now, that is the explanation that Travis is coming around to lately. That
I haven't heard that before. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it could have been an accident. And they actually brought him back to, I wouldn't say brought him back to life, but repaired him because he was burned, and he was knocked unconscious, and we don't know what else was wrong with him at the time. So they were somewhat benevolent in that regard because they just didn't say, oh, well, screw it, just another human we killed, big deal, and left. No, they didn't do that. They helped him.
Yes. I bet he was an
That's,
interesting guest
yeah,
because there's so many things that are written on that, there's probably a lot of inaccuracies, and to get it straight from the horse,
yeah.
it'd be interesting. Um, and I think it makes a lot of sense what you were saying. And there's probably a lot of other cases where they've abducted someone and they run across a serious ailment, cancers or something, and
Yeah.
they work on healing them. Whether they find it after he's on there or that's the reason they're abducted, I'm not sure.
There's
But
quite a few of those cases where they have been healed on the ship and brought back, and whatever ailments they had was gone.
yes, and so you can't really say bad things about these grays. They are
Yeah,
beneficial,
yeah.
and
Some of them have our best interest at heart.
yes, it's like humans. Some of them will do anything for you, and the other ones will just run over you.
Yeah,
So
I know in the book also, page I think about 80 or so, they you talk about some of them actually are our protectors. They're here to help and protect us, protect the planet.
yes, this was originally designed as a garden planet, and we've kind of destroyed it.
Yeah,
And,
we're good at that.
and we may not, realize how important this Earth is. The species of animals and plants. There's things I've read about alien ships landing here and collecting specimens of the plants and things like that.
Yeah, and they bring it home, and then maybe they
Yes,
introduce it to their world.
yes, and it's just a huge, wide variety of plant life and everything else. Some things we don't even know how valuable they are, and it's
Yeah,
and there's a reason for it, and it needs to be protected,
yeah,
and I'm sure they're here to protect it, and at some point they're going to need to protect it from us. It's
yeah. That's kind of what I'm a little
it's
worried
scary because
about.
we're destroying our planet.
Yeah,
But that's another book that'll be coming out soon.
yeah. Mhm.
Uh, Now, have you heard of psychopomps?
No, there was a new term I saw in your book there.
Yes, and actually, it was new to me. I ran across that when I was writing the book, and the definition of that is beings that exist in the same reality space as souls, and they exert control over the souls. And these psychopomps often take the form of grays, and they have a way of controlling the behavior and experience of humans, and they can take the human or take the soul out of the human and transport it somewhere, which is something to think about.
Yeah,
A lot of this stuff can hurt your head, though.
Yeah, that just make my brain itch because I struggle with that one.
We're here on Earth, and everything is like it's physical, and we're even like and there's like pressure
Yeah,
to not think too about the spiritual or the unphysical world or anything like that. And
yeah, yeah.
and
The majority of people on this ball of mud called Earth, they think that if you can't see it, smell it, taste it, eat it, or throw it in the air and shoot holes in it, it doesn't exist.
and even some religions are, they're kind of like
Yeah,
against us thinking too spiritually. I guess that spiritual is not a word for it, but unphysically. I don't even know how to describe that. But there's so much going on that's beyond the physical that's affecting us here.
yeah. What else do you got for us?
Okay. One of the things I ran across was uh, I've got to mention beforehand, I wrote a book on remote viewing aliens. Okay. Yes, Augie, I've got books on everything. Um,
Yeah, that's why you need to go to Amazon and check it out. There's one in there. I know there's one in there you can't live without. So go check it.
and I have great respect for these remote viewers, the accuracy of what they're doing, and the government relied on them for years for information, and I think they still are, but they don't want it. They're not out in the open like it used to be.
Yeah.
But okay, now here's some information I got from one remote viewing aliens in the Greys. Um, he discovered their collective mind and found it to be massive, giving him the feeling of something unbounded and almost universal in nature. Um, he noticed an unusual subspace being that seemed to be directing the activities of the Greys he was observing, and discovered that the bodies of the Greys themselves were incarnated by such subspace beings, which entered the Greys' bodies and used them as vessels to manipulate physical reality.
Yeah. Well, we are interdimensional beings.
Oh, that's
So,
another thing, Augie, is
yeah, why should they not be interdimensional beings?
why shouldn't we be? Or maybe
Yeah.
we are and we don't realize it.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but
They,
things happens in our life where it becomes apparent that that cannot happen according to Newtonian physics. There's something else going on.
I think there's too much out there that limits us, science and everything
Yeah,
else, telling us things can't be done. Um, my understanding is that if you want to make a change in your life, um, or heal yourself or create a better future, you have to go out of the physical body to create it. It has to be created in
yeah.
the whatever it is out there, and then you create it and then you manifest it back in the physical world.
You got it. That is exactly what Nori and I in our mastermind is doing on Sundays. Uh, we created in the field, in the unified field first, visualized, imagined with intention and emotion. That's a spiritual language. and then we bring it from there into the physical. And it seems like we're creating out of seemingly nothing sometimes. So you got it exactly right there.
And that's what my daughter keeps telling me. She's a powerful psychic, and she keeps reminding me about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and um, and that, that's another thing too, is that's becoming more obvious, is a lot of these aliens are interdimensional, and also they're spaceships. They take on the physical form when they come in, on the Earth, and
Mm-hmm.
so do their spaceships. I'm not sure what they were before. Maybe they're the balls of light we see all the time, but then they take on this physical form of a spaceship, and it's
Yeah. And traveling faster than the speed of light, going from the Pleiades to here in just a few minutes, or other places to here, it is not that hard to imagine, because all you really have to do is to hear this ship is physical, accelerate the vibration of the whole ship and everything in it out of the physical, where time and space do not exist as we know it. Then you can travel backwards and forwards. Linear time does not exist. Then you go to a predetermined location, an event, time-coded event in the future, and pop back into the physical. And now you can be 400 years away in a matter of few minutes.
that's another one of those things that's hard to for us to get our head around as humans.
Yeah, it makes your brain itch again.
Yeah, but we got to realize that time is just a thing created for us. It doesn't
Yeah,
exist,
yeah,
and once we get away from this world, it doesn't exist for the aliens
yeah.
when they're not here. It's
If
and
we
that's
think about time also, I got to comment on this, because time is very important in relation to the alien presence and where they come from. Uh, if we information outside of the physical, well, at least above the astral worlds, there's a little bit of linear time in the astral worlds too, but up outside, where time and space does not exist, there is only the present moment. All information is in the present moment. If we had that downloaded into my or your or our mind, it would be so convoluted, there's no way we could understand it. We got to string it out. So we got a past, present, and different present moments, so we can understand what happened in that glob of information.
yeah, it's sometimes crazy, but um, in the past, when I've studied a lot of alien abductions, it's they're able to control the time.
Yeah,
There's been cases where somebody's been abducted and they seem to be gone for hours or days, but they're people that were around them when they're abducted didn't miss them, like they were gone for seconds.
yeah,
And that's one of those things that aliens can control. And I had an experience. As you know, I've always been in touch with my alien spirit guides or whatever they
yes.
are.
Mhm.
They've saved my life a number of times. And there was one accident um, where I was in Northern California on the highway, and there was a pickup truck heading right towards my door at high rate of speed and coming towards me. And there's no way it could have prevented it from hitting me. I heard a crash. I looked around. Nothing happened. It had gone like it had gone through us and hit the vehicle behind us. Um, and actually, I was told later that they have the ability to do that. They can alter time, delay things a few seconds or whatever to create a certain effect or certain outcome.
Wow. That. particular story reminds me of somebody back in Omaha when I lived there. They also had a similar story. They were on the road and they were going through an intersection, and somebody ran a red light, but they went right through them and
Right.
nothing
I've heard of
happened.
other cases like that. That's
Yeah.
it's really mind-boggling. But there's a lot of things we don't understand. And
Yeah, and this is some for nuts and bolts people, they just can't wrap their head around it. I'm still struggling.
maybe we have to transport our mind into a different dimension or
Yeah,
something to
yeah,
understand it.
yeah.
I've,
And for those of you that joined us late into this show, we are talking with Gil Carlson, that has written 41 books about, oh God, everything. This time we're talking about the gray extraterrestrials. And we've talked a little bit about some of that, and we're going to get into who are they, or more so, what are they, and why are they here? And it's going to get deep, folks. So just hang in there with us. So back to you there, Gil.
okay. And I've got to tell your viewers out there that we've been covering a few things, but inside this book on gray aliens, there are so many amazing things and technical things and
Yeah,
things you
there you,
probably never
there,
never heard of. Yeah.
there you go. If you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. And you find it on Amazon.
And it's hard to just to get in deep in this limited time on this program here, but there's a lot of information in there.
Yeah.
There's so many things. I mean, we have trouble just figuring out what's going on with these alien groups and just who the Greys are, and they're connected with different groups, and there's all this different manipulations and everything else, and and there was one thing that I try to keep in my mind when I'm trying to figure out the Greys, and that's that the Greys are us and we are them. They're responsible for our creation. Well, maybe not our creation, but our improvement, bringing us from being, savages and
They
to
have been
who we are
involved,
now. Constant DNA manipulations, and it's all been for our benefit.
and more so than that, probably. They've taken our DNA and implemented into their own race, because some of them are on the backside of the evolutionary curve. So they're using our DNA to stabilize the descent in their own evolutionary curve.
Yes. That's another thing I cover in the book, that
Yeah.
it's helping us and helping them. And I'm still trying to figure out what's going on, what the end is. I believe there's a lot of changes going to be taking place on this earth, and maybe we need to be get away
Flexible.
from the denseness of our bodies
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we need to be a little flexible in our thinking. You know what they say, God loves the flexible because they don't get bent out of shape. So we so we gotta be open to other things that comes into our mind that don't make any sense. We don't have to accept everything, but go within and in meditation and try to find our own answers. Oh gosh, what else? Oh yeah, there is. We're talking about cloning also, and I don't know what else do you have that we should talk about before that?
oh, I've got so much other stuff here. One of the things that I found interesting, um, which may seem bizarre, is all right. Let me talk to your people out there. Pick a picture of a gray alien in your mind. Next to that, put a picture of a dolphin and look at the characteristics. There's a lot of similarities. And then there's a lot of characteristics that are similar between them. There is some connection. Dolphins use the same, like I forgot what you call it. It's like a beam of light. Same thing that aliens use on the gray aliens on the spaceships to immobilize someone. The dolphins use this as a means of protection. There's the round head, the shape of the head is very similar between both of them. Something happened a long time ago. Either the grays came from the dolphins or the other way around. That's probably something we'll never know.
Yeah, unless we are able to decipher the language of the dolphins, maybe they could tell us.
Okay, and there's a type of gray. It's the Zeta reticuli grays. These are probably the most common grays, the ones involved in the cattle mutilations and things like that. And they absorb certain substances from these parts of the cattle. That's kind of how they survive, what they eat on. And also, it may sound a little ugly, but they also survive on certain substances from human bodies. And these Zetas, a lot of them live underground in bases such as Dulce Base, and where they're involved in different forms of genetic engineering. And of course, they've you can't really say a lot of negative things about them because they've been involved in alteration of our genes and correcting them and for thousands of years.
Yeah.
There's also a type of what I ran across was the big nose grays. They're similar to the large grays and they're tall, but they have big noses. And it's claimed that they're able to perform certain actions that appear miraculous.
That we can understand, but some of the stuff we do, that would be miraculous compared to somebody 150 years ago.
Even less than that.
Yeah.
I mean, what, 30 years ago, would we even dreamed of a cell phone?
Yeah.
It's bizarre. And most of these improvements, well, I think a lot of these improvements have come about since, what was it, 47, when the agreement was signed between our government and the aliens.
Yeah.
And which we gave them a lot of land for underground bases in the Four Corners area, which is probably near you. The Four Corners, that's what, Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, maybe.
Yeah.
Where Dulce is located. And in exchange, we got a lot of technical information. That's about when everything started happening.
Yeah. Some of it was imported from off the planet. But
yeah.
Just for a moment also, you mentioned the shape of the head, the dolphins and the aliens.
Yeah.
You remember I think it is the Hopi that talked about the ant people.
Yes.
And the ant people, if you look at the head of the gray, that a big head on top and small towards the bottom where there is a mouth, and then the big wraparound eyes. Look at the face of an ant. It has the big head, smaller down where there is the mouth, and it has big eyes. that is probably why the Hopi called them the ant people.
Also, there were several races in Africa that had contact with aliens, and I believe they referred to them as the ant people too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And
That's
some of this may not just be the appearance, but also because a lot of these
six.
aliens lived underground, like the
Yeah,
ants, and had caverns down there, and
yeah. The
that takes
question is though that if if they've been living in the ground, they may not be aliens. They may be have been here before we came.
well, yeah, that's the thing. We're the aliens.
Yeah,
Of
uh,
course, just thinking about the underground caverns and no telling what's under there, and um, that kind of reminds me of what we talked about before when we talked about the my Hollow Earth book.
yeah,
That was an interesting program.
yeah. And Richard Hoagland, phenomenal researcher on when it comes to Mars, he says that we are the Martians. We one of our races at least came from Mars. So I don't know. It's something
There,
to make your brain itch again.
yes, there was a lot of information I discovered a long time ago about the problems they had on Mars. They lost their atmosphere and everything else. And there was a lot of, I guess you'd call them immigrants from Mars that
Yeah,
came to Earth. There's a lot of them that settled in South America. And, and
yeah,
there's
they did.
still like caves and caverns down there where they're finding uh, alien vehicles and weird technology and things like that. And these races have probably mingled with us, and or we've come from them. Most likely, maybe they were the Mayans. Mayans were advanced,
Yeah,
but
yeah. There's a story of a guy that lived way in the small village, way into the forest in I think it was Brazil, and it was common knowledge that there was another village not too far from them, up the river a little ways. There was no road to it. They couldn't get in or out from there except going on the river. And they all thought it was Americans down there. But there were a researcher that came there and went with one of the villages up to that other village. And they welcomed them in, and they saw, you know, they were people like us, all of them a little bit taller. And they thought they were Americans, but they also saw round airplanes. No wings, no engines, no nothing. They had actually flying discs. So then we are wondering, were they from somewhere else or were they the old Germans? So that's something to ponder. And that story is out there. Probably researchers out there, they may have heard of this one. So
maybe
they
we're
are,
Martians.
yeah, they could very well have been. Or they could have been from somewhere else. And this is something that they are here. They're permanently settled on Earth. Extraterrestrials are here among us, and we don't know it because many of them look like us. Of course, then again, if you see a little gray walking down the street, that'll be kind of an eye opener, but we don't see that because they stay out of sight.
And I think there's been so many hybrids and everything created that a lot of them look just like us. And and I've heard that there's a lot of aliens working at Area 51 and some of the other bases that you can't tell them apart from us.
Yeah, that's what I hear too. So
And that is supposed to be a one of those big government secrets that we're not supposed to
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Maybe I shouldn't mention it.
yeah,
There's a lot of things they don't want us to know. I mean, it's
yeah, folks. You really need to do your own research, folks, because there's a lot of stuff that we can't say on YouTube. And that's a shame because there's a lot of good information there, but the bots are everywhere.
another thing too, back to the technology that we got from the aliens.
Yeah.
Um, that was an amazing book the guy wrote on, was it Day After Roswell?
Mhm.
That was, well, that was amazing. But from what I understand, some of the our latest defense things, such as the F-117 stealth fighter and the B-2 stealth bomber, have alien technology, anti-gravity, and also mind control. This is one of those things that, going back to Roswell, when they were looking in the ships, they couldn't figure out any kind of no steering wheel, any kind of control methods.
Yeah.
And what they discovered was there was headbands, and they used their minds to control the ship. Um, and I think they're using very similar thing with headbands now in
Yeah.
some of the fighters. And
Yeah, they you can actually there was an Air Force, yeah, Air Force pilot that came out and said they've been experimenting with the headband inside the helmet so they could control the aircraft by using thought only. They were they were flying along and the pilot, all he had to do is to think immediate left turn 60 degrees. And the airplane would just immediately go to 60 degrees and peel off to the right.
and the advantage of that is it's so much faster than having to manually steer it and things like that. And you need that nowadays with these speeds of these planes. And
Yeah.
interesting what's happening out there.
Yeah. And I know in the book also you talk about the origin of the grays, which dates back a long time. And
Yes.
let's think about that for just a moment. If they were developing from whatever to what they are today, the small ones, they are created now. They're recent creation. They're grown in bats or whatever. We hear that they are created from. But the taller ones may have come through an evolutionary process. I have no problem with that because they also create the small ones. We do the same. We now are creating robots looking like us. If you are in Japan, you can buy a housemaid, but it is a robot.
Some of them are very realistic. At first, it's hard to tell them
Yeah,
apart.
they can't do all the things that they can go make coffee, clean, and stuff like that, do basic things. But it is a robot being a housemaid. I think it costs somewhere around $80,000, $90,000 for one. But there are Japanese people that can afford that.
But with AI and things like that, they've probably got robots that can do more than we can,
Yeah.
and it would amaze us. But that's probably information that's not going to come out too soon.
Yeah.
But
So,
I think what we really need to do, though, is get across that the Greys are really beings of light, and and with a few exceptions, they're a benevolent race, and they're here to help us. Whether by helping us, it's helps them to survive, helps our planet to survive, but they're still helping us.
yeah.
And there's a lot of Well, you got the government. I don't want to say anything bad about them. The government and certain religions that want to make these aliens as our enemy and evil or demons and things like that. And now that all this information is coming out on aliens, that
Well, let's think about that for a second. The government and religion, they want the aliens to come out and look like enemies. Well, the thing about it is that some of them really are. There are aliens that come here, abduct people, and do unspeakable things. There was one woman that was abducted. She was on the table being, whatever they did to her on the table in the ship. And she found herself alone in the room. So she got down from the table and walked down a curved hallway and got into some other rooms. There were humans submerged in vats of solution, but they were looked to be dead. So yes, there are some that actually I don't think would be here for our greater purpose.
I'm
So
not
if
sure how you'd explain that, though.
yeah,
Are they actually still alive, but in
she thought they were dead, but we don't know. But that looked or sounded strange to me. I didn't think that was for our higher purpose. They took humans and put them in those vats for whatever need that they had for them.
I have those pictures in my Dulce base book.
Yeah,
Uh, I, I don't know what to say.
yeah,
Um, but there's a lot of experimentation done by
yeah,
our our doctors and everything else where
yeah.
might be similar
That's true.
and
Yeah,
might be, and there's a lot of things that happen. Um,
yeah,
Medical procedures that are horrendous, but the intention was good.
yeah. We when we think about what humans have done to humans, that is probably worse than what the
Yeah, look at
aliens
our
are doing.
wars. Uh, a, and look what, like take for example our pharmaceuticals. I mean, I guess there's in some circumstances they're necessary and they
Yeah,
save lives, but also they can create big problems.
yeah, and pharmaceuticals have their place. And if somebody's in tremendous pain, they take the pain away. Doesn't solve the problem, but it takes the pain away, and that's a good thing. So they have their place. I'm still wondering what the place is for the
Well, I don't want to say
extraterrestrials.
too much because I don't know if you ever watch TV, and most of the ads are from drug companies. That's where all the money
Yeah,
comes,
yeah,
especially
yeah,
on the news. So you can't really say too much. But I
yeah,
have a book. It's going to be several books coming out later um, on this whole thing,
yeah,
and I,
yeah.
and
And
how you really need to prevent things instead of waiting until there's a problem, then have them take a drug.
yeah, yeah. So no, I've been known to give doctors and the pharmaceuticals a bad rap, but they have their place. There's good things happening with that arena also.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I went through several years ago some surgeries on my back where they saved my life.
Yeah.
And come to think of it, at the same time, they removed behind my shoulder, there was like a mass that they removed. And also tip of my ear, they removed something. And I should have had them checked to see if there were alien implants.
You probably have one, because a lot of people do.
Yeah,
Awful lot of people. There are millions of people that have those. We have seen the pictures,
yes,
X-rays showing the spirals inside of a capsule that they don't remember anybody putting it there. So these are transmitters. They're
yeah,
hooked up to the
falling
nervous.
out of the
Yeah,
person's nose and stuff like that.
yeah,
But at the same time, and I went into a lot of that about that on in a previous book. Um, the CIA also has that technology,
yeah. There's
and that,
patents on that.
yeah, yeah, and it's very common now where they give you an implant for like in a secure building or whatever, where you can open the
Yeah,
door
yeah.
with the implant in your hand or whatever.
But then again, we may think of that as a bad thing. Well, think of it in another way. If the military in a foreign country, which we have no business being in the first place, but they're there, had an implant and they got abducted by the enemy, we can find out where they are and come and rescue them. So that is something that in some cases in the military is done. And that is probably a good thing.
Is it also possible the same thing's happening with the aliens? That
Yeah,
there's people they're working with and in their programs and stuff like that, and they need to keep track of them.
yeah, that's true. Gosh, I tell you, we have used up our time. Oh
Oh,
man.
there's so much more in this book we haven't gotten to. They're just going to have to go out there and buy the book,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I've reduced all my prices on those books too, so they can easily for the next week or so go out there and
yeah,
get a bargain.
yeah. Go to Amazon and put Gil Carlson in there, or yeah, use the name, because if you use the gray aliens, there may be about 40 different books that come up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, use the on Amazon, just search Gil Carlson and you'll get all the books.
It'll take me into my Amazon, take you into my Amazon store with all the books.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us, and
Thank you again, Augie.
we'll do another one.
Great.
It was 41 books. We got a few shows left. All right. Well, thank you very much, and I really enjoy these talks with you. I'm probably talking too much, but it makes it interesting, I hope.
Mhm.
So if the listeners and the viewers want me to keep my mouth shut more, then let me know in the text below, and I'll do it. So anyway, thank you very much for being with us, and to all the viewers out there, if you like what you heard, please subscribe. That'll help us and the ratings and everything. And until the next time, be good to each other.